Let me take you back to one of the most important, yet often overlooked, prophetic systems in all of Scripture. The Jubilee cycles established by God in Leviticus 25. And you shall consecrate the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, and each of you shall return to his possession, and each of you shall return to his family. Leviticus 25:10. On the surface, this looks like an ancient economic regulation. Every 50 years, debts were forgiven, slaves were freed, and land was returned to its original owners. But what most people miss is that the Jubilee system was never just about economics. It was about prophetic timing. The Jubilee cycles were God's way of structuring history into measurable prophetic periods, with certain Jubilees marking the most significant events in His plan for humanity. And here's what's going to absolutely stagger you. If you calculate the Jubilee cycles from the time they were first established, we may currently be living in the final Jubilee period before Christ's return. Let me show you how this works, because the mathematical precision will blow your mind. According to biblical chronology, the Jubilee system was established around 1406 BC, when Israel entered the Promised Land. From that starting point, Jewish scholars have tracked Jubilee cycles for over 3,400 years. Each Jubilee cycle lasts exactly 50 years. That means from 1406 BC until today, approximately 68 complete Jubilee cycles have been completed. But here's where it gets absolutely mind-blowing. According to some calculations, we're not just approaching the next Jubilee. We may be living in the final years of what could be the 70th Jubilee cycle since the system was established. And the number 70 in biblical prophecy is the number of completion. Think about it. Daniel's prophecy of 70 weeks. Daniel 9:24-27. The 70 years of Babylonian captivity. Jesus telling Peter to forgive 70 times, 7 times. Over and over, the number 70 represents divine completion and fulfillment. What if the Jubilee system was designed to run for exactly 70 cycles before reaching its ultimate fulfillment in the restoration of all things under Christ's rule? But here's where the timing becomes absolutely critical for our discussion of September 2025. According to this calculation, if we're currently in the 70th Jubilee cycle, that cycle began in 1976 and will complete in 2026. That means 2025 would be the final year of the final Jubilee before the ultimate restoration begins. But wait, there's more. Some scholars believe the Jubilee cycles don't just mark economic restoration, but prophetic restoration. And the ultimate prophetic restoration would be the return of Christ to establish His kingdom. Under this understanding, the completion of the 70th Jubilee cycle in 2026 wouldn't just mark another 50-year period. It would mark the end of the entire Jubilee system and the beginning of the eternal kingdom where no more restoration is needed because everything is permanently perfect. The pattern is stunning. The timing is precise. The implications are staggering. But let me show you how this connects to everything else we've discussed, because when you see all the pieces together, the picture becomes crystal clear. If the 6,000-year timeline is accurate, and we're approaching the end of the 6th millennium around 2025 to 2030, that perfectly aligns with the completion of the 70th Jubilee cycle in 2026. If the Feast of Trumpets represents the feast "No one knows the day or the hour," then a Feast of Trumpets occurring during the transition from the final Jubilee to the eternal kingdom makes perfect prophetic sense. Everything converges in the same time frame. But here's what makes this even more remarkable. The Jubilee system wasn't just about individual restoration. It was about cosmic restoration. Every 50 years, the entire social, economic, and spiritual order was reset. Debts forgiven, slaves freed, land restored, relationships healed. It was a glimpse of what the ultimate restoration will look like when Christ returns. And according to Isaiah 61, 1-2, the same passage Jesus read in the synagogue when he announced his ministry, the Messiah came to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. The acceptable year was a direct reference to the Jubilee year. Jesus announced that his first coming inaugurated the ultimate Jubilee. But if his first coming began the ultimate Jubilee, then his second coming will complete it. And if the completion coincides with the end of the 70th traditional Jubilee cycle, then we're not just approaching another religious observance. We're approaching the fulfillment of the entire Jubilee system.